Washington Post, a new era for America, E.J. Dionne. It's time to celebrate the country's wholehearted embrace of democracy, reflected in the intense engagement of Americans in this campaign and the outpouring to the polls all over the nation. For years, we have spoken of bringing free elections to the rest of the world, even as we cynically mocked our own ways of conducting politics. Yesterday, we chose to practice what we have
I don't want to pick on
That's
E.J.
So true. Wait,
no, I don't want to pick
Why?
on him, but this is a truly offensive op-ed to me.
Why is this offensive?
Well, I'll tell you, and a lot of things that people said last night were offensive to me because they acted as if this were the first time that Americans got excited and engaged. I can tell you, 4 years ago, and I tell this story time and time again, evangelicals across the Southeast excited, engaged in record numbers for George W. Bush. I told the Pensacola Christian story time and time again. It was raining. The lines were around the voting booth. People in trucks were throwing water. People were singing hymns. That's not offensive to me. Now, that's offensive to a lot of people in elite circles. Those people were excited and they believed, and it was the first time they ever got that engaged. You had moms, children, everybody. I want to disabuse people of the thought process that when your side is engaged in politics, it is a worthy and noble thing. But when people who don't think exactly like you get engaged in politics, it is evil. Maureen Dowd, 4 years ago, a Pulitzer Prize-winning columnist, said those evangelicals that were excited and got engaged wanted to take America back to the Dark Ages. Gary Wills, one of the preeminent historians in America, 4 years ago, when this happened in my world, in my red state America, Gary Wills said that those evangelicals that got that engaged, that shaped the election, made America more like Osama bin Laden's Al-Qaeda than our European allies. So please, because I'm open-minded, I can celebrate this moment and say it's great for America. I ask you, the next time evangelicals or people who don't believe in your worldview have a night like last night, that you open your mind and that you actually dare to try to understand people who don't think just like you and celebrate their moment with them. Again, I'm not bitter. I am happy tonight because I love America. I believe in America. You know what? When nights like last night happen for Democrats, I cry. When it happens for Republicans, I cry. Why can't Maureen Dowd, Gary Wills, and hate mongers on the far left do the same thing, Mike Barnacle?
You know what you're talking about, Joe? You're talking about the divisions in this country that have grown and have been exacerbated over the last 15 to 20 years by a whole cycle of events and things. There is an elite media in this country. And the elite media in this country does look at people like evangelicals and think that they have three heads. It has happened in this country. And the divisions have grown in this country. And you're absolutely right. When you see people in Pensacola or St. Petersburg or Fort Myers or wherever, down south or up north, standing in the rain, getting ready to vote because of their religious beliefs or their political beliefs, that's the excitement of opportunity.
Yes.
Opportunity that they have not been presented with yet.
And you know what? That is but they aren't. And the thing is, Peter Hart, God bless him, said last night was a choice between Americans voting their hopes or their fears. That is so offensive to me that someone that we employ at NBC News would say that if you vote for John McCain, if you were a Republican, if you were a conservative, if you were an evangelical, you're somehow voting your fears. But if you vote for our guy, then you're voting your hopes and dreams. Listen, can't we just come together as a country and say that those evangelicals in Pensacola, Florida have every bit as much of a right as people on the Upper West Side of Manhattan have a right to be excited about Barack Obama?
Well, you bring up Pensacola, and I'll read to the panel Jonathan Capehart, Pat Buchanan, Mike Barnacle, and Willie Geist. You put you put this to black and white in your hometown newspaper. This is your editorial, Joe. Backing up what you're saying now, Pat, I want your thoughts on this. That politics has turned into such a blood sport over the past 16 years says less about the politicians who have run this country than the political commentators who launched such hysterical attacks. These days, subtlety of thought is a scarce commodity in public discourse. It took me a few years in Congress to figure out my party didn't own exclusive rights to the truth. That realization was liberating and allowed me to focus more directly on what was in the best interests of America instead of just the Republican Party. Had more GOP leaders thought that way, the party of Reagan would not be in shambles this morning. But it is. So what's next? A good start might be to stand for something and then to commit to disagreeing without being disagreeable. It may sound radical, but I think we have no choice. Pat.
Well, that sounds like Joe Scarborough, columnist for the Pensacola paper, is it?
It is.
I thought so.
Embarrassing him this morning.
But, you know, to Mike's point, look, when we were with Reagan in 1980, and when he broke through in that last week, I mean, the conservatives, we were just wild with enthusiasm and happiness. We didn't think, the promised land had arrived for us, but we were not that well received by the national press, as I recall. But I remember going over to WRC and walking in, and everybody was, what the hell? What are you? I was at WRC in the studio over there where I was doing radio every day, and the grim looks and everything like that. You'd have thought the Hun, the Germans had just come into Paris or something, the way they were reacting.
Well, Pat,
but we were celebrating.
You can laugh about that, but again, when one side wins, then it is people lurching backward towards the dark ages.
Right.
Seriously, why is it that some of the most educated people in America, some of the people who are supposed to be the most liberal, are the most closed-minded?
This toxic aspect of our politics, which is what you're talking to, something happened, I don't know when, over the last 20 years when it was not just important to defeat your opponent. You had to demonize and destroy your opponent.
Put him in jail.
Yeah.
They missed you, though, Buchanan. They missed you.
It goes back to Lyndon Johnson and Nixon. I think that's what it broke. The Eisenhower and Kennedy years were together. They were really times of great unity.
Is it time for me to say something? Can I say one thing?
You sure can, Jonathan. It's always time for you to talk, my man.
Oh, I didn't realize my mic was open. I'm so sorry. Well, you know what? The point I wanted to make was, if President-elect Obama's mantra throughout this campaign, bringing change to politics in Washington, then it's going to have to come from the top. It's going to come from him. And if we're going to get past this point of, the politics of personal destruction on both sides, it's going to have to come from him. And let's give him the opportunity to demonstrate that he's willing to follow through.
Exactly.
Okay. All right. Thank you, John.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Good point.